Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is about book talk, and essentially I read 6 book talk, popular slash hyped slash maybe a little overhyped books, and we're gonna talk about them today. So I hope you're excited, and I hope this can act as a sort of guide for whether maybe you want to read them or not, or maybe you've read them and you have some opinions as well. So let's have a chat about them today. Okay, let's get straight into it. Okay, so the first book is arguably the most hyped out of all the book talk slash booktube slash bookstagram books. Is It Ends With Us. I know that there's probably a million opinions about this book out there, but let me give you mine. I rated it what did I rate it? A 3 out of 5 stars. I rated it a 3 out of 5 stars, which is average, I would say, because that's what this book was to me, average. I'm not gonna sit here and hate on it, but definitely not my most favorite book, and I would say not really worth the hype. It's definitely overhyped, but it's not bad. Just as a brief summary, with no spoilers or anything like that, it follows a girl named Lily who falls in love, and you know, she kind of rediscovers a past love, and I can't remember, how do I even explain this book? If I was gonna explain it in, I don't know, simple terms, it would be that it's a very mundane book with a Hallmark movie setting. It kind of just gave me like a Hallmark movie vibe. There's no real I would say there's no real action to the movie, to the book. It's very, you know, like she did that and he did this, and there is a little chunk in this book that is reoccurring, and it's no spoiler, but she writes in her journal, but her journal isn't to herself as one's journal usually would be. She writes her journal entries to Ellen. Like Ellen DeGeneres, which just makes me cringe. Like it's just weird. Like there's a reason she does it, but I can't seem to figure out the importance of that. Like it just doesn't fit in the book. And yeah, I will say that it was a quick read and an easy read because Colleen Hoover does write in a enjoyable way. She doesn't, you know, over describe or over like explain. She kind of just lets you, you know, go through the motions. I did cry when I read this book, so I feel like that probably bumped it up from a 2 to a 3, because me crying in a book, if you get me to cry, you've done a good job. So yeah, definitely not bad, but not good. It was just like very average, and I would say pick it up. Just do it, pick it up, and then you can form your own opinions about it, because it is a subjective book. Like it might be a topic or might explore themes that you're interested in. It's just not something that really got me. I like a little more action in a book. Yeah, but yeah, it does kind of have like a life lesson kind of moral of the story, which is good. It's a very family oriented kind of story. Yeah, it's the only Colleen Hoover book I've read, and I did pick up the second one as well, but we'll just keep it to the first, okay? Because this is the most popular one, so we'll just talk about this. But yes, that's my opinions about this book. I will also preface that some of the books that I'm going to be talking about, they have sequels, but I'm only going to talk about the first book in the sequel because that's generally the one that's overhyped, and you know, people are talking about. So sequels, we're not going to get into them because they often they're just, yeah. Often sequels can either be better or worse. So we're not going to talk about them because they're going to alter my ratings and your opinions. So that was It Ends With Us. Now the next book is actually probably one of the first books that I read from BookTok or like book recommendations that were really popular a couple of years ago. And that is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. And I gave that book a 3.5 out of 5. It is, I know that is a controversial rating just because everyone loves it. Like, it doesn't have bad opinions. I haven't seen bad opinions about this book, which is primarily why I picked it up in the first place. But I will, okay, so it follows a girl named Catalina, and she has to go back to, I'm not sure where, Spain for a wedding, for her sister's wedding. And essentially she needs a date because, you know, her family is giving her pressure, and like they after a relationship fallout that she had, they pity her and she doesn't want their pity. So she needs a date, and she's, you know, thinking about how she can go about this. And there is a co-worker of hers called Aaron Blackford, and he volunteers to be her fake date. So it is a fake dating trope. And I really loved this book up until they reached Spain. Because I feel like there wasn't enough of the enemies to lovers push and pull. It was kind of, it ended very quickly. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the fact that he was always in love with her. Like, you know, like, I don't hate it, but like, I just think that it developed way too quickly. Like, they don't know each other that well, and yet they like fell in love a couple of days of being in Spain. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. It just kind of got a little bit cheesy, and then there was like a random miscommunication trope thrown into it like towards the ending as the book was supposed to be wrapping up, which like I just couldn't really understand. And like the main character is, to me, quite insufferable. I just can't stand her. I just feel like, yeah, I don't know why, but I just, every time things that she says, I'm like this guy's doing everything for you. Why can't you just suck it up for a second? Like, okay. That's just my opinion. So 3.5 stars out of 5. I don't know. I don't know if I recommend it to everyone. I feel like a lot of people have already read this book, but I think that my opinion is quite controversial. So yeah, if you do like quite cheesy, like typical romance tropes, I reckon read it. I do as well, but like I don't know what I was expecting. I think it's just because I just saw so many positive reviews about this book that I went in with a very high expectations, and they were met like for a good 2/3 of the book. So it's an enjoyable read in that sense. Go into it with no expectations, or at least low expectations, then they will be exceeded. So yes, that's all I have to say about this book. Yep. My third book is The Cruel Prince, which I rated, what did I rate it? A 4.5 out of 5. It's a good read. It's a damn good read. I loved everything about it. Why didn't I give it a 5 out of 5? I just would have liked a little bit more main character romance exploration. I feel like it was very kind of a subplot as opposed to the plot, which I understand. This book, as I've come to find, is not a romance series at all, but it's more of a political fantasy series. However, I did really enjoy this. I loved the world building. A lot of people say that they were very confused about like what the like people are in the book. Like, are they like fairies? Like, are they like just magical people? Honestly, it didn't even cross my mind when I was reading this. I just kind of accepted it as I went on. Like, these people are not humans, but they're also like borderline not fairy. I don't know, it just kind of clicked quite easily for me. And I just like that kind of twisted idea of the people, the guy that murdered the main character's parents is actually the guy who's also looking after her and brought her into this fairyland and is like training her. And it's kind of twisted, but like it creates a really deep like level of depth, a deep level of depth to the character and the book. I also really like Jude. I feel like the way that she reacts to things is pretty much how I would react to things. She's impulsive and she's angry and she's kind of crude, and I respect that, yeah. And I will say that it took me a while to visualize. So when I read, I can pretty much see everything that's happening in the book as play out in my head as a movie. But this one was a little hard. Like, I'd have to take a step back and be like, okay, this is how this character looks, this is how that character looks, and this is how the room setting looks. Like, maybe there was like a lack of description in the book, which is why I was a little, lost in that sense, but it was fine. I got through it, and I ended up really loving it. I liked it. I liked the little, I don't know, like royal vibes, a royal coup that happens, and like, yeah, it felt very reminiscent of like a fantasy movie that you would watch, like a teen YA fantasy movie. And it did give me a lot of nostalgia to the kinds of books that I read when I was in high school. So I really, really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend the first book to you. I won't say anything else about the sequel or the series because I will talk about it in a different video, but the first book, definitely pick it up. Do it. You won't regret it. I love it. Okay, next book. It's next to It Ends With Us. This book is probably the most overhyped, not overhyped, sorry, just hyped and talked about on BookTok, BookTube/Bookstagram, and that's A Court of Thorns and Roses. I have spoken about the series in a previous video, but we're just going to talk about this. And this book is a 5 out of 5 for me. It's one of the only books I'll ever give 5 out of 5. It's amazing. I think I've mentioned it before, but it's just a human girl gets taken into the land of the fairies, and she's falls in love with the High Lord, and all this shit happens, and she is forced to fight for this court that she was brought into. And it's really good. It is a fantasy romance. So there's the romance is kind of the plot, and then the subplot is like the action and like the political royal stuff that's happening, which is what I really like in a book. There is a main character called Tamlin in this book, which is the love interest, and I'm not going to talk about him, but if you read this book, you will love him, and that's fine. Don't be discouraged by what you see on BookTok or BookTube or Bookstagram about him. Just go with the flow. I feel like with this book, you need to go in not knowing anything already, which is hard now because of how much it is talked about, but try your best to avoid spoilers or just any information about the book if you plan on reading it. Like, that is the best way to go into it, and you will not regret it. If you like fantasy, even if you don't like fantasy, it's a great book to get into fantasy because there's not a huge focus in the first book on that. This book is kind of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Disney movie, as twisted and crazy as that sounds, but yeah, it's very mild. There's a little bit of spice, but not really. Not as much as these booktubers and the BookTokers are making it sound like. I promise there is a lot more storyline and romance plot than there is just like spice. Like, I don't even know if there's a proper full spice scene in this book. Yeah, so it's mild and it's really good to get you into fantasy. So read it. I would say that it is not overhyped and it is the perfect amount of hyped. So yes, you won't regret it. The second last book is Guild. I'm just gonna get through it quickly because I've spoken about this book before. It is the first book in the Plated Prisoner series and I rated it a 3 out of 5 stars. Yes. And the main reason is just the traveling. It was boring and it was bland and I just did not enjoy it. Also the abusive kind of relationships that happen in this book kind of they caught me off guard. I didn't realize that it was gonna be like that intense. So please read the trigger warnings before you read this book. I will say it's maybe because I am reading the second book currently, my opinions of the first book are changing. So I feel like I can't really give a proper, honest review about this book, but I would say that I read through it very quickly. It took me not long, like altogether just, I don't know, a few hours maybe. It's not thick either. So it's a dark fantasy romance. It's kind of like, this is the way that a lot of people have explained it, and I think that it's not a bad explanation. It's pretty much a darker version of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Yeah, it's a much darker version of it. I reckon definitely adult fiction, not for kids or teenagers. Yeah, not a bad read, but not an amazing read. This is one where I will mention the sequel. Read the sequel. If you read this and you're like, nope, that's how I was, just read the sequel. I'm going to talk about that in another video because I have a lot of things to say about it, but we'll keep this one short and sweet. It's not bad. It's definitely not bad. I feel like the romance in this book was overhyped by a lot of reviewers and book people in the book community. There's not a lot of a lovey-dovey romance. There's a lot of forced kind of sexual things, but it's not like, there's no like actual romance in this book. Yeah, but you got to get through it to get to the second one, so I would recommend it. Yes. And the final book is The Hating Game. I rated that a 4 out of 5. It was also one of the first BookTok/BookTube reviewed books that I picked up, and I really loved it. I actually really loved it. I can't remember like actually not liking any part of this book. The only problem was that because the trailer for the movie had come out, I found it really hard to picture the male protagonist as anyone but the guy acting in the movie, and I don't like the guy who was acting in the movie, so like it kind of gave me like I was like, get it out of my head, and I had to like reimagine him, and it was like, it took a lot of like mental willpower to not picture the guy from the movie, but I liked it. I really loved this book. I think you should pick it up. It's a light, easy read. It's an enemies to lovers with this like push and pull, and like I really liked it. It's also kind of forced proximity in the sense that they work like sitting across from each other every single day. And like I like the fact that it emphasizes that there is a very thin line between love and hate, which is what this book explores, and it's such a fun read. It really does give early 2000s rom-com vibes, which is one of my favorite kind of vibes and genres. And yes, a very solid read, and I would say that BookTok/BookTube/Bookstagram were very right in hyping this book up, because it's good. I think that the book is better than the movie, as I do with many things, but yeah, read the book first before you go and watch the movie. So yeah, that is what I have to say about the 6 hyped book talk books. And yeah, I hope that that gave you some sort of clarity amongst these books. It's just another opinion that's out there now. And I hope that if you do read any of these books, or if you have read any of these books, let me know and we can chat about it. And let me know your opinions about them, because I would love to, you know, see a different point of view and see what other people were thinking about the books that I would say I enjoyed. Most of them. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I hope you guys have an amazing day and an amazing week and an amazing time reading. Bye!